When my parents landed in Europe, the first thing they saw wasn't a smiling bellhop or a warm welcome drink. It was a front desk clerk, shaking her head slowly, telling them their luxury reservation didn't exist. My father leaned forward, confused. My mother's voice trembled as she insisted she had the confirmation. And in that polished marble lobby, every head turned toward them, watching their confusion unfold like a scene no one expected to witness. But honestly, their shock didn't begin in that lobby. It began hours earlier, the moment I, Lauren, pulled into their driveway with a car full of plans. A perfectly organized, printed itinerary I'd spent 2 whole years building. 2 years of saving, skipping weekends, giving up little pieces of joy, just to create one perfect family trip. I walked in smiling, ready to see their faces light up. But instead, I stepped into a decision they'd already made. A decision that replaced me. A decision that rewrote everything I thought I knew about my place in that home. For years, I told myself our family wasn't broken, just a little uneven. A scale tipping in one direction. But still a scale, something fixable. But deep inside, I always felt the weight of that imbalance, pressing on my chest, quiet but constant. Pretending it didn't hurt was easier than accepting the truth. I was holding everything together, alone. From the outside, our life looked perfect. A peaceful street, trimmed lawns, friendly neighbors waving. Inside, my mother arranging flowers by the kitchen window. My father smoothing out his newspaper beside her. And in the background, always behind them, was me. The one doing everything no one noticed. The one holding them together when they forgot how. That morning, I thought things would finally change. But I had no idea the real heartbreak was waiting. Just one step deeper into that house. A betrayal they thought I'd never discover. I grabbed my bag and walked up the path, rehearsing the cheerful greeting I thought I'd get. But the front door opened before I could knock. And there she was, my sister, standing there with a perfectly packed suitcase, hair curled, passport in hand. Not groggy, not surprised. She looked ready. Ready to leave. Ready to replace me. My mother appeared behind her, that practiced smile I'd always hated. "Oh, Lauren, good. You're on time," she said, as if nothing unusual was happening. I froze. My eyes went to my sister again, the smirk barely hiding her satisfaction. Why does she have luggage? Why am I the one standing here, surprised, while everyone else acts like this is normal? My mother clasped her hands, soft, gentle, almost soothing. "We've decided to take her instead of you," she said. I blinked. The words didn't compute at first. They floated above me, absurd syllables, impossible conclusions. "She's been under so much stress lately," my mother explained, her tone practicing sympathy she never used on me. "Your sister needed a break. We thought it would be best for her." The sentence hit me harder than I expected. Not because of the words, but because of the calm expectation behind them. The expectation that I would understand. And for a second, I realized I did understand. I understood just how invisible I had been. How I had sacrificed every weekend, every penny, every ounce of myself, to care for everyone else while never being cared for. I didn't argue. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I simply watched as they walked past me, grabbed the suitcases that should have been mine, and drove away toward the airport like I was never meant to be part of the trip. Every text, every polite word, every forced smile they'd ever given me, it all made sense now. I was always the fixer, always the fallback, always invisible. But in that moment, as I stood on the driveway, something inside me shifted. For the first time, my silence wasn't surrender. It was the sound of a boundary forming. And I knew, even as their car disappeared from view, that this time it wouldn't be me cleaning up their mess. This time, it was finally going to be me, taking back what was mine. The drive to the airport felt heavy, like the air itself was thick with betrayal. I kept my hands steady on the wheel, even as my chest tightened with every mile. Lila scrolled on her phone in the back seat, humming softly, as if she were heading to a spa retreat instead of a trip I had painstakingly planned. My mother chirped from the passenger seat, completely unaware of the storm she had caused. "We'll start with the river cruise," she said, bright and hopeful. "And maybe shopping. We'll see how she feels." How she feels. I whispered to myself. 2 years of sacrifices, late nights, skipped weekends, all calibrated for me gone. Replaced by her. Arthur cleared his throat. Thanks for driving us, Lauren. Means a lot. I nodded silently. If it meant a lot, they wouldn't have replaced me. Every instruction from Lila in the back seat. How far to roll her suitcase, where to stand at the gate, which entrance to use, was a reminder of what I had lost. I kept quiet, nodding mechanically, holding my rage inside like a coiled spring. At the drop-off lane, I stepped out to help with luggage, my hands moving automatically, lifting bags that no longer felt like family, just weights I'd been dragging my whole life. My mother kissed my cheek. You're a good daughter. This really helps us. Yeah, I said softly. I know. And then silence. The final straw wasn't betrayal. It was the ease with which they stepped over me. Without looking back, they disappeared through the sliding glass doors, leaving me behind. I stayed in the car for a long moment, watching. Then I drove home. The house was dark, quiet, my suitcase waiting by the door. A reminder of what I had tried to give them. I walked past it, sat at my kitchen table, and opened my laptop. Every reservation, every confirmation, every tour, every hotel booking. It was all still in my name. They had replaced me in the trip, but they could not replace the owner of the reservations. One by one I clicked, cancel, cancel, cancel. No hesitation. No angif. Just clarity. By the time the last booking disappeared from the screen, a strange calm settled over me. Not joy. Not revenge. Just balance. The first moment in my life where the scales didn't tip entirely against me. Hours later, my phone buzzed relentlessly. Marianne, something's wrong. The hotel says the reservation isn't there. Fix it. Arthur, maybe there's a mistake. Call when you see this. Lila. This isn't funny. We're stuck at the counter. I didn't respond. For once, I wasn't their solution. I brewed tea, opened a window, and let the summer air slide over my shoulders. By the next morning, their panic had grown. Photos of their tiny, cramped hotel arrived. Complaints, frustration, guilt, desperation replaced entitlement. And I didn't answer. When they finally returned home, exhausted, rumpled, defeated, I was already waiting on my porch. They had no excuses. No commands. Only the silent realization that I was no longer theirs to fix. The taxi dropped them at the curb, their posture heavy, clothes wrinkled, faces drawn. Lila saw me first, dragging her suitcase toward the steps. Here we go, she muttered under her breath. Marianne followed, chin lifted, the stubborn tilt she always used when embarrassed or angry. You owe us an explanation, she said, voice sharp. I didn't move. What do you want me to explain? I asked. That your trip was a disaster? She snapped. We had to stay in a tiny room. The tour company kept saying we weren't on the schedule. Everything was chaos. Arthur sighed heavily. You could have called someone. You could have fixed it. I stood slow and steady, finally seeing them clearly. Why would I fix a trip I wasn't invited to? I said. You replaced me, so I removed myself from the bill. I added quietly. The silence was different this time. Clean. Clarifying. Lila crossed her arms, defensive, muttering. You ruined our week. No, I said firmly. I stopped ruining myself for you. Marianne opened her mouth, then closed it again. For the first time, she had nothing to say. I picked up my keys, slinging my bag over my shoulder. I hope you learned something, I said. Because I did. Arthur asked, small voice. What did you learn? That boundaries exist, I said. And I'm finally going to keep them. I stepped off the porch. No one followed. Weeks later, I opened my old trip spreadsheet. Instead of bitterness, I felt clarity. Money had been meant for an experience worth remembering, not for people who disregarded me. So I booked a solo trip to Italy. Rome first, then Florence. No compromises. No last-minute substitutions. I walked the streets freely, lingered where I wanted, decided what I wanted. Every step, every meal, every moment felt like reclaiming something I didn't realize I had lost. Freedom wasn't loud. It was steady, calm, and finally mine. When I returned home, I knew one thing. Love isn't measured by how much you give. It's measured by whether anyone ever gives back. Setting boundaries didn't break my family. It showed me which parts were worth keeping. And if you've ever carried more than your share, I hope my story reminds you. You're allowed to step away. You deserve better than being the family fixer. The house felt lighter now. Curtains I had ignored for years were finally open. Letting sunlight spill across floors, I no longer navigated under invisible pressure. Drawers I had avoided for years were cleaned, organized, rearranged. It wasn't just tidying, it was reclaiming my space, my peace. Messages, calls, and apologies from my family trickled in over the following days. Marianne's voice, careful, tentative. Arthur's small, uncertain. Lila's brief, almost dismissive. I answered only when I wanted, not out of obligation. Not because they expected it. For the first time, my attention was mine to give. I reflected on every year I had spent absorbing their chaos. Fixing problems that weren't mine, being the responsible one while my own needs were set aside. The Europe trip had been more than a vacation. It was the last reminder of how often I had sacrificed myself for others. And now I had learned the hardest, most liberating lesson. Boundaries were not selfish. They were survival. A solo trip to Italy had shown me the joy of choosing myself, of walking streets with no one's mood to manage but my own. Every gelato, every cobblestone path, every sunset over Florence reminded me that life didn't need approval from anyone else. Happiness didn't need validation. It required courage to prioritize oneself. By the time I returned home, a sense of calm had settled inside me. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't seeking revenge. I was free. Free from obligations that were never mine to bear. Free from the expectation to always fix, always give, always forgive without question. I realized, you can love your family without letting them control your life. You can be kind without being exploited. You can care without losing yourself. If you've ever carried more than your share, if you've ever felt invisible while others thrived, remember this. It's okay to step back. It's okay to protect your peace. It's okay to choose yourself. And for anyone listening to my story, know this. Freedom, respect, and clarity don't come from others. They come from the courage to stand for yourself, to take what's rightfully yours, and to let go of what no longer serves you. This is not the end. It's the beginning of living for you, unapologetically, fiercely, and fully.